Hello everyone and welcome back to the SQL course. So now let's fill our countries table. So we'll want to add countries to our table, namely we want to add the name of the country, what's the foundation date of the country and also the population. I'll start here with the new command called the insert into. This command enables you to insert rows into a specific table. So in tandem with the create table command, it's a really important command here in SQL, particularly for modifying data inside tables. So I'll start with the following. As you might have imagined, this is the same syntax that we've used for other SQL commands. Insert into countries.countries, and then what we'll do is opening parentheses to give our instruction. So now what we first need to do in insert into command is giving the columns where we'll be inserting information on, and these columns must be by the order that we'll set in the next statement, which is the values. Okay, so I'm going to insert by order. I'm going to insert name, foundation date, and also population. So here notice something. I didn't set a country ID because I'm not going to insert a country ID into this table, because this country ID will be added automatically. Why? Because of the auto increment property. So the auto increment means that when I insert a new country in this table, the count of this country ID will start on 1. When I insert the second, it will auto increment another value, so we'll have 2, and we'll see that when we insert data. I have to close this one and close this parenthesis and give the values that I want to insert into these columns. In this case, I can pass values, open parentheses again. Notice the syntax: insert into database.tablename, then give the columns that I want to insert data into, and then passing values. And after the values, as you might have imagined, we need to pass the values that we want to insert in this table. I'm going to insert, my home country, and sorry about the home bias here. So name Portugal, foundation date, it's on the year 1143 on the 5th of October. And now the population, at least the last known population, is around 10 million people. So not that many people compared with a lot of countries in the world. I'm going to try to insert this row into my table. What we'll have is now a new row in the table with Portugal. In this case, the country ID will be 1 because there are no rows in there. So we'll increment 0 by 1 and we'll have 1. Then we'll have the foundation date and the population. Now notice, the population is this large number, over 10 million. We gave here data type small int. Let's see what will happen when we try to run this query. We have an error. Now this is extremely important. When you put a data type and you overflow that data type, in this case we are overflowing the maximum number that is allowed in the small int, because the small int only goes until 65,535 when it's unsigned, as our column is. 10 million is over this value. What happens? SQL can't insert the row because of this type mismatch. Now, this is extremely important because when you set these data types, you must be sure what is the data that you are expecting, or at least the largest amount possible of data that you are going to put in these integer columns, or else you are going to have an error in your queries. And this can be extremely bad for your data pipelines. Here, as you might have noticed, SQL is actually pretty good in giving error statements. Out of range value for column population. That means that this value that I'm giving is out of the range of the data type that I've given. So let's correct that. I'm going to use the UI here, actually to delete the table. So I'm going here, I'm going to do here drop table. This is one way to drop tables in MySQL using the user interface. We are going to learn next how we can do this in code, of course. I'm going to do drop now. So my countries table is no more. Let me run again our countries table. I'm going here and create a new table. But instead of creating it with small int, I'm going to check what's the appropriate type that I can use here. And I have here medium int, it goes until the 16 million. Well, there are a lot of countries with over this value in population. Here, I think this is 4 billion. If it's not, I think that this should be enough. Int. So let's use int. I'm going to use int here and create my countries again. There you go, create table, countries was done. Now I'm going to run the insert into countries, or at least our countries table, my row. Again, notice that I've modified, and let's confirm that if I describe my table again, if if I describe my countries.countries, what we have right now is this int, okay? Before, we had a small int and our value overflew that small int range. It was successful. So now I can go for select all from countries.countries. Let me get this a bit here. And if I run this one, now notice we have here one country in our table. Country ID 1, name Portugal, foundation date and population, and we've successfully inserted our first row into a table. In the next lecture, we are going to insert multiple rows at once and also check more examples of what happens when we do type mismatch between the rows that we are inserting and the data types in our table. So I'll see you in the next lecture.